maybe somebody else has an idea. Oh, I know. One of the things was, in one I was reading, everything was Catherine did this, Vincent did that, Catherine said this, Vincent did that, you know. And they were the only people in the story. And to me that was very distancing, because when you say Vincent, then you get a picture of Vincent, and he's over here. When what you really want to do is be pulled into the intimacy of the conversation. So there's nothing wrong with using he and she. Obviously sometimes it's, if you have other characters, it could be confusing. But if they're the only two people in the scene, you can be pretty sure of who's who. In fact, I frequently, when I write, will have Catherine refer to him when he's not around, to just say, wondering what he's doing. And I don't say who, because to me, that's part of that intimacy. You know immediately. If you say Catherine's thinking about him, you know who it is. And that brings you closer to it rather than far away. Yes?
Something one of my writing professors told me, which was probably the most useful piece of information that I ever got, was something that I called the standing on a box theory. And he said there is a difference between standing on a box and looking through the window of a house and watching something happen, and having someone else stand on the box and look through the window and tell you what they see. And he said, when you write, get off the box and put your reader up there. And I have a little sign, you know, no standing on the box. So get off the box. And that's very helpful. And it's humorous because there is a difference. Well, right now they're eating, and he's saying something, and then she said, you know, as opposed to putting them up there so they can see what you see.
Yeah. And I think sometimes you're not really conscious of whether you're doing that, and then all of a sudden, I know several times I'll kind of realize that I'm seeing this scene as if it's over here, instead of just happening around, you know, and I stop. I just put it at that point and wait till, you know, it's different. Does anybody else have a theory on that? Oh, the other reason, too, I was thinking about writing from Catherine's point of view, is that it allows Vincent to keep his mythic distance. I really think that, and this is my own opinion, but I really like Vincent to retain a certain amount of mystery. Plus, I think that another thing that makes people really get into a story is that they are supplying a lot of the detail themselves. And here already we talked about description, and everybody already knows what things look like, how people talk, how they move, that kind of thing. But I totally forgot what I was going to say. I just drifted off there. Catherine's point of view, yeah. Oh, I got it. Okay. And obviously you can't be too vague, or you're, you know, it's going against you. But I really think the more you can let the reader's imagination take over, the more they feel that the story belongs to them, because they have in fact supplied more of it than if you just laid it all out in detail. So I try hard not to always interpret what somebody means, so that the reader can do that. I try to be relatively vague in terms of what Vincent looks like under his clothes, because I think it's much more important that the person who's reading that story sees him the way they would like to see him than whatever I might dream up. And the same thing, obviously, with love scenes. And of course, that's different when you're doing a real adult novel, but I think the important thing is to be vague enough that somebody else can supply what they would like to have going on. Oh, the other thing I like about writing from one person's viewpoint like that some people think is limiting, because they say, there you go, you don't. You have that character's version of what's going on, because you're seeing it through their eyes and what they think about it. But you can also create another viewpoint by making things a little different than the way the character is interpreting it, if that makes any sense. What I think of in terms of doing that for myself was Kaleidoscope 2, where Catherine spends an awful lot of time feeling insecure, partly, I think, because love makes you feel both extremely insecure and extremely secure. And she questions herself. She's very analytical in this. She never once questions Vincent's perfection, which I think is the essence of romantic love. But what I tried to do in that one was to show that all the attributes that she attributes to him, his courage, his compassion, his selflessness, everything she says about him, she is the one who is really demonstrating throughout the story. Now, she's not aware of it, so you're not getting that from her viewpoint. She's being a little bit self-critical and wondering if this is going to work out, being very doubtful. But what I would hope is that maybe from what's actually going on and from her actions, other people can see that actually the things that she admires in Vincent are qualities that she also has in herself. And in fact, they actually are more obvious than Vincent's, because Vincent has all these strange hang-ups that we haven't quite worked through, and we don't exactly know about Vincent. But in the meantime, I was hoping to show that Catherine, because I think it's real important that in a story like this, that the heroine be worthy of the hero. And the only way to do that is to make them have the same kind of qualities that you admire in the larger-than-life figure and put it into the sort of realistic figure. On the other hand, I told you I didn't work for anything. I was talking about, obviously, when you do it from one point of view, you can't say what somebody else is thinking or feeling. You can only interpret it through the character. Or you can say that he appeared to do this, he seemed to feel like this. And obviously you're going to do that quite often. But I think if you use too many words like seemed, and this is just a personal opinion, they're uncertain words. And I think the one thing that you need to do as the writer, if you want to hold the attention of the reader, is to make them believe that you believe what you're writing. And if you use too many things like seem, which I use all the time, I mean, it's like I'm conscious of it, I'm trying to get it out. Or rather, or she felt a little this, or, and I do this all the time, it's not that I don't do this, but I just think that it would be a good idea not to do it as much. Because I think in order to really carry the story off, the reader has to have some sense of the writer's conviction. One story I wrote was really outrageous in terms of what I expected from people. But the only way to do it was to just absolutely write it like it was fact and never let any of that uncertainty come into it, because the reader would feel it too. Those words are fine, but I think they belong mostly when you want to create an ambivalent feeling, when you don't want to feel an uncertainty, when you want to keep people a little off balance. Then you can get away with that kind of stuff a little bit more.